It looks great. Troy walking recording.
We're good? All right, we're going to call to order the 5 p.m. workshop. It's Wednesday, January 12, 2022, and City Council workshop. We need to do a roll call, is that correct?
Mayor Preden?
I am here.
Council President Conley?
Here.
Councilor Blum?
Here.
Councilor Ross?
Over the airwaves and present.
Councilor Letts?
Here.
All right, hello everybody, welcome. We have some people in the audience, it's great. We have 3 main items and we have about an hour and a half before City Council meeting. So I'll be kind of keeping track of the time. The first item on the agenda is the overview of the Development Code text amendments. Director Woodford is going to present to us. And you have 3 minutes. No, I'm just joking. Probably 30 to 40 minutes, depending on how the discussion goes, kind of what I'm looking at. Okay?
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. So I wanted to discuss with you some potential development code amendments that we have had on our list for a while, and due to being busy last year with the comprehensive plan and some other big ticket items, we didn't really have a chance to address them. And now that we've got that behind us, and staffing up here again shortly to be fully staffed, there's a few items that we have. We have a long list of development code, potential development code amendments, but we're going to break them up into phases. And
we appreciate that.
You're welcome. So the first 3 that we wanted to broach with you are the dark skies lighting ordinance, storage uses, and temporary uses. So I'll just go through them individually and give you a little bit of background on what the issues are that we've been hearing with them, and then potential solutions, and I want to hear your feedback. We don't want to get out ahead of you guys and the Planning Commission as well. We're going to meet with the Planning Commission next week on the same topics, and we'll have the benefit of having your input that we can share with them, and then get their input as well. And we want to make sure that any development code amendments that we do bring back to you guys are going to get approved eventually. So we don't want to be putting stuff forward that is not in alignment with these bodies' thinking. So the dark sky one has been talked about for a number of years. In my estimation, there's really nothing terribly wrong with the ordinance the way it's written. It was last updated, I believe, in 2010. So that's a few years, but it does talk about having lighting being downcast. It's not making sure that you can't see the light bulb off the property, are the basic fundamentals of a good lighting ordinance. You can start getting into real details about how the brightness of things, lumens and kelvins and wattages and all that. And I'm not sure that we need to get quite into that detail. Probably the biggest component of the lighting issue is all those lights that were approved before the ordinance went into effect. And so we have a number of lights that are, we don't know how many, but I would imagine that there are a number of lights that are not in conformance with the current ordinance. And in 2010, there was a provision put in there saying that we would bring all those other lights into conformance by 2015. For one reason or another, that didn't occur. And so one component of updating this ordinance is resetting the clock on bringing those non-conforming lights into conformance. And first order of business to do that would be to do an audit to see kind of what we're contending with in terms of the scope of how many lights there are out there. And then we'd probably include an education campaign, trying to educate the public about why it's important to have an ordinance like this, so we can preserve our dark skies and we can still see the stars out there. Sisters is an area that probably still has the potential to preserve that very well. A lot of areas in the world have never had that or lost that a long time ago. So we've heard a lot from the community about how important that is to them. So that's a huge component to this is bringing those into conformance. We feel like we're doing a pretty good job with catching new lights. We do make it a condition of approval in our site plan reviews, our building permit reviews. We tell them that they have to comply with the dark sky ordinance. And then when they ask for a certificate of occupancy, we do an inspection at that time. And that's one of the things we do look for. I think we could tighten it up a little bit to, put them on notice and make sure that they're submitting plans, especially with larger projects where they're submitting their lighting plan ahead of time. So before they even start construction, we can review that and say, hey, this looks like it's in conformance, versus waiting until the very tail end and telling them they need to comply, but not knowing exactly how they're going to go about it and find out that it may not be good enough at the end. And that's not when you want to be talking about that stuff when they're ready to get occupancy. And so I think some amendments to make sure that we get that information earlier in the process is something we want to add to the ordinance. There's other things that we might want to address, that weren't issues that back in 2010, a lot of folks have taken to lighting up their backyards with decorative lighting. It's kind of a thing to do right now, which is kind of cool to create some ambience, but is that something that we want to take a look at potentially limiting or not? Holiday lighting, we do a pretty good job of regulating that now. There's some time thresholds that you have to, you can't have it up before like November 15th, and you got to take it down around the middle of January. So there's a provision for that. So those are kind of some of the highlights about things that we would like to change or consider changing with the ordinance. We'd love to hear your thoughts. I don't know if you want to take these kind of one by one, or if I should go through all of them and circle back to comments. We can do it either way.
I think taking them one at a time is actually a good idea, kind of, going through some of the issues that you see, and anybody has a comment or a question about each one.
Okay.
As we go through, that'd be okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of the background on the lighting. I don't know, Corey, if you wanted to add anything on top of that, since you've been hearing about this for a little bit longer than I have.
No, that was a great overview, Scott. I think the only thing I would add is that we're looking for potential general comments, but not diving too deep into details tonight. Tonight is really just seeking a head nod from council to move forward with developing potential code language and then setting the process in motion to refine that, as Scott alluded to earlier. So that doesn't mean don't ask questions. It just means, we're not prepared tonight to get into the details of Kelvins versus, all that stuff. So anyway, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you give us the direction, we'll come back with the details, and you can tell us at that point. There'll be a public hearing. Planning Commission will review it, and so you can tell us that we got the details right at that time.
Does anybody have any comments about dark skies?
Yes. When you are referring to this, are you referring to this as residential and commercial?
Correct.
So it's the same, whether it's residential or commercial, kind of?
The concept is the same about downcast lighting.
So our Christmas decorations have to be down by mid-January?
There's I can't remember the exact time frame. Yeah, there's a general time frame for getting them up and then getting them down. It's not like we're out there policing it, but if we got a complaint from somebody, we could say, yeah, well, the code does say you have to have it down in a reasonable time frame. Yeah.
There was a recent letter to the editor saying that she hoped that they would stay up till mid-February. So keep that in mind.
I know every year it's getting pushed a little farther on both ends. So,
yeah, I'm not a particular fan of rules that we ignore unless somebody points them out.
We as a city, ignore it?
Yeah, well, as a population,
No,
I mean, I go by every day and say, well, that's not really legal, that's not really legal, but it's not personally offensive to me, so I'm not gonna complain about it, but, you know, I think we've got a tremendous amount of that kind of stuff that the general public is not even aware that we have a regulation about it. And so, you know, it ends up being a code enforcement issue. If somebody gets hot and bothered enough about it. So I don't really know what I'm saying, that I want to not have time restrictions or I want them enforced. Seems like there's a lot of leeway in between. When you talk about giving a certain amount of time to bring into compliance, would that mean that it would be then mandatory to come into compliance within that period of time, or face consequences, and those consequences would be new that would be added, or are there consequences in there now?
It's not defined now, you know, the thinking would be that initially it would be an education process to make people do the right thing voluntarily, and I guess the ultimate, I guess, tool is at the end of that process, if you still haven't come into conformance, code enforcement at that time. But you know, that's not defined in terms of how exactly we go through that process. But those are kind of I think the first choice would be to make sure, just to kind of let people know why it benefits the community, why it benefits wildlife, why it benefits all the other benefits. And then, you know, the other issue is providing them with the resources to make the right decisions. You go to Home Depot and very few of their light fixtures are actually dark sky compliant. It's not as easy as you would expect it to be.
That was my next question, is could we have a program that would help if cost became a significant issue?
That's definitely a consideration. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
starting a new company called Dark Skies Incorporated.
Yes.
We sell dark sky lighting only.
Yeah,
So
Sisters
I'll roll that
compliant.
out next week.
Yeah.
No.
good idea.
Do you have any more?
No.
Okay, Councilor Ross?
Thank you. Some things about this trouble me and some things about it don't. It's a difficult issue, especially when we're talking about non-compliance of older homes. Some people feel they have every right to light every inch of their property in any way they please. And other people feel they have every right to not have the neighbor's light come onto their property. And both of those are kind of diametrically opposed positions. I never liked the idea of pitting neighbor against neighbor, or trying to turn our citizenry into somebody from Texas who tattles on someone who does something they don't like, sends them to court. And so I think we need to really give some serious thought to not only what we want in this ordinance, but some serious thought as to how the city is going to ensure the ordinance is enforced. And yes, the education component is certainly the first step, but I think we need to have some strong language about what occurs, just as we do when we have yards of garbage and dump sitting on the side of the street, what we're going to do when someone chooses to not be compliant. That's step one. I think the brochure that's in the lobby is a good place to start for people who are thinking about what is dark sky lighting. You kind of links to the brochure that I saw the other day. And I think that we have to get on top of this, because once we lose it, it'll be almost impossible to put the genie back in the bottle. And I can tell you that when I visit my vacation home in Newport, which sits away from the city, which sits adjacent to the ocean, which sits adjacent to a state park, my bedroom at night is lit almost as brightly as the meeting room you are sitting in now. And that is from all the ambient light that comes from around the town where no one, you can't see the sky at night. Maybe you can to the west a little bit, but seeing stars, forget it. So I think that we do have to be on front of this. I think we have to be on top of it. And I'm not real sure where the answer is, but I am a little uncomfortable with the fact that the current ordinance really doesn't have any teeth behind it. And I'm also a little uncomfortable with us kicking the can down the road by moving the compliance date further down. I don't know when that date is going to be, but I think we need to do something before we lose it. And I can tell you, I will agree, by the way, when we built the house and I had to find that sky lighting, the choices in Redmond and Bend were relatively limited. So that's something that we probably need to work with too. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilor Ross. Councilor Letts?
Yeah, thank you. All good comments. Mine are that this will be a good process in the respect that, this was implemented or last visited 2010, it said. And there's been a lot of technological changes and advances since then. Wi-Fi connected lights and LEDs have taken over the market. And so I think there is definitely an opportunity to research the change in the lighting market and see what has bubbled up over the last decade. I think there's a lot of opportunity there for some really great products. But yeah, you get kind of into the wavelength, Kelvin, all that kind of stuff and how it affects wildlife. That's there's a lot to learn there. So this will be a good opportunity to refresh that. Reading through the safety survey that we'll probably discuss later, that was an issue that was brought up by a fair percentage of people in town, was just lighting and maybe not feeling as safe moving around town. And I don't think that's a mystery to anybody or a surprise to anybody. So again, a good opportunity to figure out a solution to that. How do we provide a safer environment for pedestrians and drivers? This is a really dark town to drive around in it at night in some neighborhoods. And we have a population that, percentage wise is older than the average community. And, we all know that your ability to take in light through your eye diminishes greatly as you age, unfortunately. So, we want to make sure that any changes are, age friendly. But obviously there's a lot of opportunities with the, the nice lighting on some of the trails, down lighting. I think it's just a really great opportunity to revisit this, see what other communities are doing, check out the technology, and see what has changed and come up with some kind of fresh recommendations. And I think I kind of echo Gary in that I don't think we need to push this out for another 5 years. I think 2 or 3 years would probably be plenty for asking for compliance. And obviously it'd be great if we had, an opportunity as well to fund people who need a little help there. So that is all of my comments. Thank you, Scott.
Okay. Councilperson Conley?
I also agree with sooner rather than later. And financially helping people who might have a hardship in retrofitting, new build. If you're building, you can afford it, especially with technology's change. I did have 2 comments, and that is about the solar lighting. I have a lot of those solar powered lights in my yard. I think they're compliant. I don't know. Maybe we need to put a piece in there. They're just lighting my path. And then I'm a really simple person. And so when you're talking kelvins, that means nothing to me. If you can translate it to a 60-watt bulb or a 40-watt bulb outside is acceptable, that would be fabulous. And the safety first piece along the main east-west, north-south driving corridors, I think is really key. I wouldn't want to give up the safety in that regard. However, the dark skies are really an important topic that we do need to follow up and enforce in the outlying smaller neighborhoods where the traffic isn't as heavy. So good luck with all that, coming up with your plan. That's it.
In other words, we want it all.
Yes.
And I have 2 minor points. One has been said already, which is I really believe that it would behoove us to, when we're doing this audit, is trying to figure out how much it kind of costs per light to do or whatever, and help fund the people that in our community that can't afford to do it. I mean, I really think that I challenge us as a community to do that. I think it's super important. And the second point is, we have some people in town that are really passionate about dark skies, and I would really encourage us to get them involved in the process, just so we can touch base with them and make sure we're hitting many of the key points that they make. We're not going to get all of them. We're not going to make everybody particularly 100% happy, but we can do our best by having a decent public outreach during this process. Other than that, it looks really good. And the one little thing that I saw that I really liked was, and Gary kind of touched on it, is the illustration of what's good and what's bad. I think that that's something that almost anybody can understand, no matter your background. So I kind of think that's a great idea, and make sure we can find a way to do that somehow down the road. Other than that, I think we have a head nod on that.
Okay.
So thank you.
Yeah, there's a dark sky group that's started by a teacher at the high school, and there's some students that are part of that. So we met with them about a year ago or so, and so we'll re-engage with them at some point.
And maybe this is one of those places where we can get a student involved who may be passionate about it to be part of the discussion.
Yes,
I don't know.
they offered support in terms of how they can help us with education in the community. So we'll definitely pick them up on that.
And a quick additional comment that I forgot to put up, and that is that we have a lot of people who do this decorative lighting in the backyard, especially the strings of old-timey bulbs from Costco and things like that. And I'm not adverse to someone having the ability to light up their back patio or have someone around in the evening. And maybe the thing you look at for some of those sorts of activities is a cutoff time, basically saying that those lights are fine between the hours of dusk and pick some time, but they should be on a timer and be off during the darkest part of the night. Because that's really what we're talking about, that period of time from about 11:30 or 12 o'clock to about 1 or 2 in the morning, when we start to have the dawn come back in, especially in the summertime hours. So as we think about decorative lighting, we probably need to figure out how we're going to accommodate that, but do it in a way that we set some limits on how long it can be up and running. I have a neighbor that leaves it on all the time, so I'm aware of it.
So Councilor Ross is talking about my house. I have over 100 feet of string lights, and no, it's okay. And I have them on a timer, and they go off 2 hours or 4 hours after dusk, depending on the time of year. 4 hours in the winter and 2 hours in the summer. So I agree with it, though. I mean, I like it that they go off by themselves.
Would you, on that note, would you be interested in having wattage limitations for those kinds of things as well? My wife always comments about how people kind of, do you really, is it just for ambience, or is it so you can read a newspaper outside at night? You know, like, how bright does it need to be? I guess it's just a more of a real question is there support for reasonable wattage, I guess, measurements, so that people can have them, but they're not to the point of being obnoxious?
But I mean, I think the answer is possibly. I mean, I don't know a yes or a no for sure, but I think that there's things to explore on that, probably.
I will tell you that I have two neighbors that have light wars. One's the Christmas season and one is the summer, and they're both directed at their neighbors. And so I think wattage would make sense to alleviate a lot of those issues.
Okay. Right.
They're all nice people.
Of course.
All right, storage use review.
Yeah, second one is storage use, and this is a topic that's kind of been percolating for a little while. It was kind of illuminated during the I guess I can use the word illumination now. We're not talking about outdoor lighting. It was illuminated during the comp plan process, and the buildable lands inventory review that we went through to see how much available employment land we have and whether we needed to expand that in the future. It was ultimately concluded that we had enough land as it is accommodate what our needs are in the next 20 years. But whether that some of that precious industrial land is going to be used for creating employment types of opportunities. And Cappy, who was our previous economic development, local economic development guru, kind of raised a little bit of the concern about, are we going to start seeing some of these new lots that created industrial subdivisions taken up by storage use facilities, which serve a need in the community for sure, but they do not generally generate a whole lot of employees, very few, if any, permanent long-term employment opportunities. Sort of coupled with the trend of, smaller lots, smaller houses, less storage, the demand for mini storages and those kinds of things, probably only going to get bigger in the future for folks needing extra space. And so this is I guess, a real need for direction from council in terms of whether you guys agree that there's a need to place any kinds of artificial limits on the number of storage units so that we can preserve some of those land, some of that land or a good portion of that land for new businesses, attracting businesses to town that have a high employment generation that help the community in a variety of ways. If you're so inclined to support that, there are tools that we can employ to help bring that about, such as, you can eliminate the use altogether in the industrial zone district where they're typically allowed. That obviously would preclude any new ones. You could also say have a buffer, between different uses, such as with short-term rentals. You can limit the total number of the total acreage dedicated to storage uses. There are, and I don't have the specifics really involved or available tonight, but we've kind of reviewed these with our land use attorney, and there are some tools available to implement this policy if we thought it was something worth pursuing.
Okay.
I'd just add one thing on that.
Uh-oh.
Another consideration could also be that our land shortage is more acute now than it would likely be fast forwarding 5 years after we've considered efficiency measures and gone through a potential UGB expansion process. So it might also be somewhat contingent on the bringing in of additional industrial land. So like Scott said, there's a lot of ways we could slice this, but in general, in the short term, is this something that we would want to potentially limit?
Okay. I'll start the discussion off. Why not? I am in favor of exploring all of our options. I'd like to know which kind of tools we have. I don't think you have to give us 10 tools, but what are the top 3 tools possibly? And also maybe have some kind of audit so we know how many units do we have, how many different businesses do we have, and how does it, I don't know if there's a per capita measure for other cities where they have this issue, but I think it's completely true that these storage businesses, while they're absolutely necessary, we seem to have more than some other towns of our size. I don't know if it's just me or if that's why a quote is a good idea. And I think that we should look at it very, very, very closely and come up with, maybe 3 levels of idea, the medium level, the high level, and the absolute moratorium until we have more buildable lands. I don't know which one I support right now, but I do want to look at it. So that's kind of where I'm at. Council President Conley.
How many units are coming online now with the industrial park? Is it 200 and some?
You're talking about the latest approval up there?
Yes.
Yeah, 290, I want to say.
Yeah.
It's starting to stick some in my head.
So I bring that up because I would like to see a moratorium put in place now. We just brought that little piece of industrial property in. I would hate for all of it to be used for more storage. The storage units benefit one or two owners. It's an evil necessity, as you all alluded to. However, it doesn't help diversify the economy and make us a year-round workforce. And so I think until we have a better plan in place, or we have an annexation, or more information, I would be all for a moratorium.
Councilor Plum, you want to?
I would be willing to look at a temporary moratorium situation, since we do have a bunch of units coming online very quickly. But I feel like we're sending a little bit of a mixed message, in the sense that I know we're going to be asked to do considerable infill in this community, and nobody likes everybody's stuff outside. Nobody wants the boats, the trailers, the motorcycles, and whatever parked around in the yards. And I think if we're going to have good-looking cottage-type units and facilities around, that we have to accommodate people's stuff, because they come with it. And I don't think it's reasonable to expect them to drive to Bend or Redmond to get it. I've even had some people that I know in Bend talk about how difficult it is to find storage. So it is an up and coming need. I think that the 200 units coming online now should last us for a while. So I wouldn't want a new proposal taking up that kind of land. Also, I want to know, is that the only zone that those are allowed in?
I believe so, light industrial.
Okay, so that is the, and I agree, I would like to have a little more information about how much light industrial land we have left, and what that, probably the people that have been on the economic development boards already know this, but how long that would likely last us, given the kinds of businesses that tend to move here. I know that's making a big assumption, because I don't want people to want to come here and have an employment opportunity that would be good for Sisters and not be able to find a space. So it's really going to be a balancing, I think. But I think at this point, I would only be interested in something that was temporary.
Okay. Councilor Letts?
Thank you for bringing up this topic, because it had been bouncing around the back of my head. So, and I'm glad that, there's this nod to an understanding that these do serve a purpose, especially when we're going towards smaller units, smaller lot sizes, smaller living units in general. I'm not going to break in any George Carlin stuff right now, but we're Americans and we all have a problem with our stuff. So, so they do serve a purpose. I have a couple, and it's also for whether if you're rich or poor. If you're poor and you're tripled up in an apartment somewhere with other people and you need somewhere to keep your stuff, you get a storage unit. If you got a lot of money but you want a small house, you're going to put your winter stuff in a storage unit to get it out of the way, so it's not cluttered and your property looks nice. So I think it is an amenity that serves the entire population. Of also, we have a storage unit, which I'm not excited about, but until we build a shed to get it back on our property. But when you visit there and you when other people are there and you peek in to see what they have in their storage units, it's also something a lot of businesses use. They put inventory in there, put seasonal items in storage as well. So they do have a place in our society. I know that when we got our storage unit, and this is almost 3 years ago, which is, I really need to get a shed, is that, we got like the last storage unit at the time. And so I don't imagine that has improved in 3 years. And I think that these units in the new facility are probably going to go pretty fast. So we just need to be prepared for that. I would, just going to bring up 2 points. One is, I'm not necessarily against anything that's been discussed previous to me. I just would like more information. I would like maybe a little bit more information from the storage unit owners in general to see what their vacancy rates have been maybe in the last 3 to 5 years and projections. And maybe even some anecdotal, information from them on who their customers are. Private sector, individuals, businesses, et cetera. And then the other thing so I just like a little bit more information before I kind of weigh in on anything. And also, there is another opportunity here. There's no reason why the majority of these places need to be 1 story. There are multi-story storage units in Bend. I mean, there's a newer one on North 97 by Winco. There is a really old one, which is a multiple story one downtown Bend on Wall Street across from the voter drop-off space. So that could be something, a mitigation factor if we get a lot of pushback on this, is to go up. Obviously, I don't want to go up too high, but they do make elevators. So that is all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Councilor Ross?
Yeah, somebody sounds like someone else in my house. Would you give it a storage?
Councilor Ross, can you speak up, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So I've got a lot of thoughts on this. I too have the storage unit. I think it's not that unusual. We keep our RV in it. We have a bigger one. The 3 units on either side of me, which are the largest at the facility on Barclay, are used by businesses. And so I'm sort of the oddball in that it actually has stuff that's not business related in it. I'm pretty confident there's very little turnover at the one at the end of Barclay. I'm also very confident they have 1 employee. And I'm also fairly confident that the money leaves town. Most of these units are not owned by someone who lives here. I mean, there are some that are, but they typically, especially the large expansion ones, like the one we've seen in Barclay, the one that's going in further down, the new one, most of those have offsite owners. They often own many of these units. It's a business for them. And so that money leaves town. I think we need to be considerate and think about that as well. I'd like a moratorium at this point. I think we have a limited supply of buildable industrial land. And I think that's probably the poorest use for it. I'm kind of with Jennifer's, the sprawl concept versus the up and down concept is probably something I hadn't thought of, but it's really very true. I've seen that in a lot of places. And they work well for most homeowners who don't need a big unit. And so those are my thinkings. And the one thing I did notice in the section 2 under tools is the trying to do something like we do with STRs, 1 every so many feet apart. I don't think that works. I think we just need to say, for now, we have a moratorium, and then we look at where those may need to go. And once we do our UGB, if we do a UGB, and we figure out how to make more land available, then we can look at other locations. And yeah, I agree, it's not nice to drive to Redmond, which I did for 2 years before I could get one here, but it's not undoable. So, oh, and I did want to mention that there's something that I had noticed, which is an interesting side. A gentleman who is not far down from me in one of the smaller units, who keeps his material possessions in the storage unit, comes by on a 1 or 2 every day, or sometimes every other day, and trades stuff out, and is clearly someone who's living in his car, can't find a place to live, and the unit's full of furniture. So I think we need to think a little bit about how we help out this goes back to our houseless and our less than fortunate population, so that they have a place where they can keep their possessions and have their possessions while they're looking for an actual location to live. So just another thought. So that's my thing on storage units. I don't have a solution, but I'd like to see a moratorium for now on new construction.
All right, thank you, Councilor Ross. We're pretty far on time, so let's try and get this last one wrapped up a little more quickly than we have been.
I say we don't even talk about it.
How temporary can you get, right?
Yeah, I just skip right over it. I think didn't we tell you we didn't want to talk about this ever again?
Yeah, we can make this short. And just we really didn't want to
She's
engage too
serious.
much on this one anyway, other than to say that we as a staff would be taking a look at this and kind of troubleshooting a little bit, and probably coming back to you later if we have any see any need to make some amendments on this. If you do have some, just top of mind thoughts you want to share with us, we'd be happy to hear that right now. But we weren't really expecting to engage a whole lot with you on temporary uses at this time anyway.
Hey, Scott, do you know offhand the last time the temporary use permit code section was updated or amended? Because this is different than transient merchants.
Right, I'm just
And
giving you.
no, I know, and different than public events. And so, we've got site plan development, we've got transient merchants, and then in the middle, we've got temporary use permits. And I don't think this has been recently discussed or the code has been updated.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Andrea, do you remember? We've discussed it numerous times,
No, I don't remember.
like every year, I think.
No, I tried to block it out.
Yeah,
You two have to remember, you've been on council longer than most people that
Right.
are on staff, so, at least many of us, so.
so 4 years or more, if you don't recall it, okay.
So it's been at least 4 years, right?
Okay.
So, sorry, we're not trying to be flippant about this
Yeah.
last, the second number 2 on your thing. It's actually number 3. So, I think there's a lot to look at there. I think it's actually kind of meaty, and that's one of the reasons we're all kind of a little hesitant of bringing it up now, because we could likely talk about it for an hour. You know what I mean? So,
Maybe real briefly,
go ahead.
based on the kind of enthusiasm, I'll put it that way, of this topic, and also of the comments that you all shared on the previous 2 comments, would you rank this lower as a priority than the other 2 topics we talked about? Or am I just making it even more confusing? Because we have lots of work to do. And if it was, hey, let's revisit this a little later, or hey, staff, do some research if you have some spare time, those are fine comments too.
How much of a problem is it?
We're kind of bringing it to you all to ask you that question as well. Have you heard, do you see, do you think this is pressing?
I will jump in.
You're brave.
Years ago, when we put the 100-foot setback for I'm gonna get all my acronyms wrong, special event.
The transient merchants.
Thank you. My belief, along with council at that time, and I don't know that Andrew was there for that first discussion, was that everything, including temporary use permits, were the 100 feet off the setback off the center of Cascade. And so last year, when an ice cream shop set up, I had several businesses contact me and say, why are they allowed to be there during the height of summer? They're not paying taxes. They're not helping keep a year-round employee. They're siphoning off our profits that help get us through the year. And didn't we address this X years ago? And I think at that point, council thought that it was kind of an all-encompassing 100 feet off Cascade. And so it is a concern and an issue with businesses out there, probably not the property owners, because they're the ones that benefit by renting the land. But I think we do need to clean it up.
I think we do too, although it may, if there's something that needs to be pushed a little bit, I think this could be, but I wouldn't want to put it off forever. I think, if it had to wait a little bit, that would be okay.
Yeah, I was looking at it, had no real concerns until I got to the very bottom, which said staff has received some feedback, and goes on from there. It may be beneficial for us to know, not necessarily tonight, but what type of community concerns there are regarding what's happening with this policy, so that we know if we need to address it or if it's something that we just need to clarify. So that's the only concern I had. I don't have a problem pushing it a little further out. I too was a little surprised at the ice cream truck when I thought that there was a 100-foot setback in it based on the stuff I read. But I guess at some point I'm going to want to know what some of that negative feedback may have been about the temporary use. And that would help me with making my decision.
Thank you, Councilor Ross.
Mayor, if I could just address
Go
that. I mean, I think I could just kind of nip that in the bud. Councilor Ross, it's basically this, the feedback is basically what Councilor Conley just encapsulated. You know, from a staff point of view, we could probably quibble with some, maybe follow up with some of the conditions that we apply to these projects and how well they follow through on things. But the major concern that I was alluding to was from existing business owners.
Some prior history and the discussion years ago is, you know, we don't want to look like, sorry, seaside, with having vendors set up at different corners, and there's nothing, I don't think, that would stop, I'm going to say, Dixie's, the property owner, from leasing me on a 3-month or 6-month temporary use permit to sell cowboy hats and sunglasses. And that's what the argument and the discussion was years ago, was to prevent that type of carnival look, because that is not what Sisters is about, and it's not what the community wants, and it's not what our destination marketing personifies.
Okay. Councilor Letts, did you want to check in on this? Or are you pretty good with what you've heard?
I'm pretty good. I guess my curiosity is that is this just a enforcement issue? I mean, is the code strong enough that maybe the ice cream truck was kind of an accident? Or does there need to be some more language added? That's where I'm confused of what happened there. And because it's, on the grand scheme of things, this isn't the hottest topic we need to be dealing with, but if we can nip things in the bud when they're small, that's obviously the best time to take care of them.
So it seems that there's a bit of a gray area. Staff does have some discretion to impose conditions, and we need to make sure that the use is compatible with the underlying zone. But an ice cream truck in a downtown commercial zone is compatible with the underlying zone. So we can say you might have to consider this or consider that in the approval of a temporary use permit, but we may have been out of bounds if we just flat out denied it. So let us do a little more research. I think there is also some historical context of other vendors or temporary use permits in other parts of town. So let us regroup on that a little bit. We'll put it a little lower on the priority list, but part of why we were bringing it to you is that it is winter, and we generally get these applications in the spring for summer. And if we are going to be making change ahead of next summer season, we need to be considering those changes in goalposts fairly soon. So let us work on it a little bit more, and we can come back and try to structure the conversation when we have a little more time.
Yeah.
It's not a fun conversation, but
I think that's a wise course of action. Okay. So we went 48 minutes. Thank you, Scott. No, it's good. So we went a little over time. So we got about 40 minutes for the next two topics. So 20 minutes each. The next topic on the workshop is review draft urban forest management plan. Director Bertag, how are you doing? Good. 20 minutes good?
10, 15.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Sounds great. Thank you.
So Corey and I will tag team this. Councilor Letts, who is our councilor representative that works with the Urban Forestry Board, can help out as well. So we brought this in front of you. This is a brand new plan, one that the city is committed itself to with the code language that we brought to you and you guys passed back in August with the urban forestry ordinance. So with that, we got direction from the Urban Forestry Board to bring them a draft plan. We researched several cities, took a lot of really large plans and condensed them, modified them for Sisters, and we ended up with bringing, I think, like a 40-page document to the Urban Forestry Board, and they actually wanted it to be cut quite a bit more, and we ended up at 37. So I think we found a decent middle ground there. They went over this with fine-tooth comb, 4 or 5 iterations over about half a year to come up with the draft plan that's before you all. And it's basically comprised of 5 different components. First component is basically the tree infrastructure, inventory and what we have as far as public trees on our public rights of way and in our parks and on city assessor's property. And it's about 2,700 trees actually that we own and maintain within city limits. Second component is the management of the urban forest that's primarily under the authority of the Urban Forestry Board. We also have a city forester that works in conjunction with them, as well as the Public Works Department. And their job is to, be proactive with their urban forests, to develop maintenance standards and planting standards and tree species standards. So this is saying that they're going to do that, and that'll be what we bring back to them in the way of standards and specifications at a later date that'll have more detail that suffices what this second component is. Third component is wildfire mitigation and fuel treatment section, and that dovetails nicely with the wildfire mitigation planning that we're going to be looking at later this evening. The fourth is management of our tree inventory outside of city limits. So the city owns 400 acres, 160 up at the treatment plant, 230 out on the Lazy Z, and 10 acres off of Edgerton, which a couple hundred of those are pretty heavily treed. So we have to manage those not only for wildfire, but just to reduce invasive species, invasive pests attacking those stands, keeping them healthy, removing trees that are either hazardous or diseased or dying. And so that ended up being a pretty important component of the plan. And then the fifth is how we're going to interact with the community on this. And we have several partners that we deal with trees and wildfire planning. They both kind of go together pretty well. So school district owns quite a bit of property out on the west side. We have the Forest Service who owns a lot of property on the north, west, and south sides of us. And then we have Oregon Department of Forestry who oversees the private properties around the city as well. So that's what's before you tonight. Urban Forestry Board is recommending this draft to you guys for your consideration. So if you guys want to get into questions, we can start firing away.
All right, thank you, Paul. Councilperson Conley, I know this is a good topic for you.
Yes.
So.
I love the report, actually. I read it thoroughly. However, I don't recall reading if the state park that owns the triangle and just to the north of the Redmond Highway, were they involved and listed as a partner? They have a couple of dead trees in there. Do we need to list them or not? And I read the report thoroughly, but I'm just missing it. And I was really thrilled to see that pest management is also in there. And that's often overlooked and could be a real hazard to the community. So good job, Urban Forestry Board. Jennifer, take the praise back to the committee, and whoever wrote the report, well done.
Thank you.
Okay.
Why the recommendation to avoid planting fruit trees?
Because they make a mess. So we're not saying on private property, we're thinking more of the public property. But, crab apples over a sidewalk are they're messy. They attract deer into the right of way, even though our deer are pretty good about using crosswalks.
We have smart deer.
They are kind of a nuisance issue.
Okay, you might just point that out in there. I mean, just to have the statement, it's like, well, but, you know, what is the reasoning behind that? I made that assumption, but I didn't really know. On the list of facilities that the city owns, it didn't list City Hall. Is that because it's not in a forested area, or?
We were looking at the city-owned land outside of the city.
Oh, okay,
Limits,
that's
yes.
what it was a list of.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And how exactly is the wildlife mitigation professional services contract working on later today fit into this?
So this recommends doing that wildfire mitigation planning, of which
Right,
this,
okay.
what you guys are going to look at is the execution of that.
Okay. That was the only questions I had.
Awesome.
I thought it was great. I loved it.
I'll pass that along.
Yeah, I agree.
You bet.
Well thought out.
Councilor Letts, did you have anything you want to add to this?
Just that, yeah, it was a process that took quite a few months and there were a lot of drafts. Paul and Troy helped a lot guide the process. And it is a little, I think the end product turned out pretty well considering how so many things overlap. We love trees and sisters, but we don't want them to destroy sisters from a wildfire. But in some parts of town have lots of too many trees, and other parts of town have no trees. And you know, then you throw the possibility of pests in there. So it wasn't, it was a very tricky process to try to categorize and make sense of these different elements. So I think we ended up doing a good job of finally kind of getting things into order. It's also a very hard thing to go through this because we're constantly reminding ourselves like this is city-owned property, and maybe other public entities that we can have influence over, but this doesn't have anything to do with private property. And that was kind of a hard thing to keep constantly reminding yourself in this process, because you know the two go hand in hand, and hopefully this document will help maybe further influence maybe some code or other things in the future for private property. But yeah, otherwise a lot of hard work went into it from all of the forestry board members. So I really appreciate their hard work.
Thank you. Councilor Ross, are you available or?
Yes, just sometimes the audio was breaking up, so I killed the video so I could hear better. Yeah, I thought it was a good read, to be honest with you. I read it with a lot of interest, and I had the crab apple question too. I think, I mean, I can't have a crab apple on my property. There's one there. Do I need to take it down? So yeah, I think I was being a little more broad in my thought process. I think it looks good. And I think the concept of doing some types of fitting and mitigation of some of the city property that we own and is smart. And anything we can do around our perimeter to decrease the opportunity for a wildfire to come into the community proper, I think is important. And I also like the idea of taking diseased trees out before they spread anything else around. And good job, everyone. And it was a good read.
All right, thank you, Councilor Ross. And the last thing I want to say is just thank you to our Urban Forestry Board. That's a lot. That was a lot of work. That was a pretty big haul there, even though it was spread out over 6 months. This is the reason why Sisters is special. We have volunteers at all kinds of different levels and different areas, and special thanks to Councilor Les for, I know it's kind of your area, but thank you for working on that a little extra too. And obviously you and Troy putting it all together, and I'm sure there may be even other staff that I didn't know were involved in it. So just thank you all specifically for it, because this was a kind of a big lift, and we're just now seeing the end product, right? So
Yep.
Be sure to pass that on from all of us up here.
Absolutely.
Thank
Yeah. And if there's any additional edits, feel free to email them to Troy and I, and we can incorporate, and we'll bring it back to you in a couple of weeks.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Well, back on schedule.
Back on schedule. And our third item on the workshop is the Sisters Area Chamber of Commerce Annual Report. Judy Trejo. And friends, of course. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Please state your name and your address. No, I'm just kidding.
Hello, I'm Judy Trigo with the Sisters Area Chamber of Commerce, PO Box 1116, Bend, Oregon, 97708. We are so excited to be here today. Thank you for having us come and give our annual presentation. I will breeze through a lot of the information in this report because I know you've read it, and I want to leave plenty of time for questions at the end. Next slide. Okay.
Sorry, I'm just getting bigger. I'm not giving you the next slide. I lost my, there we go.
Thank you. Our mission is to enhance the economic vitality of Sisters Country through tourism development, promotion, business advocacy, and community support. So on our tourism piece, we are a visitor center. We provide destination management services for the City of Sisters, and we produce 3 large events, 2 community events, and 1 event that is one of our largest fundraisers, and that is the Harvest Fair. We are a Chamber of Commerce. We provide an online business listing service to our members. We provide business advocacy and member referrals. And then under community support, we really try to help the community and the different nonprofits in town when they have needs or requests. Next slide. Next slide. We are a 10-member board of directors, and we have over 220 members that represent over 1,300 employees in Sisters Country. Next slide. This is our main income streams directly off of our P&L. We had total income streams of $413,000 and expenses of $408,000. Next slide. These are our page views for our website and our social media views. Our reach on social media was 132,000. And we have 27,000 page views and 90% new visitors on our website. They spend an average of 49 seconds on our website, but our whole goal is to get them into our website and off as quick as we can. We want them going to the businesses that are listed on that website and perusing them. So we're really a portal for our members and other information, like where to hike, the Forest Service website. They'll go there for that information. If they need help in the community with where the food bank is, they'll go to that website. So we're really trying to move people through pretty quickly. Next slide. We've been in business for 47 years in Sisters Country. We own and trademark all of the Sisters Country brands. We create all of the promotional products internally. We produce the maps, brochures, and the trail guides. We manage the downtown kiosks and the banners. And we have a partnership since 2016 with the City of Sisters that I'll talk about in a little bit. We manage the visitor center and visitor services, and we promote individual members, as I mentioned before, through the business listing service and social media. We partner with the city on projects, and we work to increase business engagement in community projects and programs. Next slide. Those are our shoulder season events: the Harvest Fair, the tree lighting ceremony, the Sisters Country Parade, and the Visits with Santa. And we did all 3 of those this year, and those events drew 15,000 visitors to Sisters in the shoulder season.
50 or 15?
Sorry, 15,000.
Oh, there it is. Thank you.
Yes, 15,000. Next slide. We had over 2,000, almost 2,500 in-person contacts in the visitor center this year. Again, we have 227 business represented. We have over 6,000 different pieces of collateral material inside the chamber. We produced, printed, and distributed 5,000 maps. We broadcast 1,649 60-second commercials on ABC, CBS, and NBC. We advertised at the Redmond Airport. We had 250 hours of volunteer labor. Some of the highlights from non-paid media is that we were listed in 2021 as a desirable destination and received that travel award from Sunset Magazine. Travel and Leisure listed us as best small towns for historic charms. Northwest Travel had a great article on us, Escape to Sisters for Winter Recreation. And the Global Traveler had an article, Strolling Around Sisters. Our events I talked about, and we, in addition to those, because we are not doing in-person events, but we are doing small things that are targeted. So we did one ribbon cutting, an open house, a groundbreaking, and a 1-year anniversary promotion for a business in town. But we've done all of our outdoor events, but I'm still pretty uncomfortable with doing indoor events. So we're probably not going to do that, maybe even not this year. Our 2021 ads reached Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Alaska, Montana, and California. iHeartMedia, we had over 3 million impressions. Northwest Travel, 1.5 impressions. Cova Magazine, our ads there reached 460,000 readers. And we can go through these numbers, but the gist of it is, for a small town, we have a really great reach, and that converts to people coming here. And that increases that room tax. And the reason that's important is because there's a multiplier factor. That helps all the other businesses, and it's not just financial, it's workforce as well. It helps keep our workforce vibrant. Next slide. This is everywhere where we advertised, the type of advertising we did, whether print, digital, radio, TV, or video, when we did the advertising, and what it was for, whether it was for events or for shoulder season or for holiday or for just trying to increase visitor volume. Next slide. Collaboration in sisters countries. So we do collaborate with all of these different entities listed here on this slide. Next slide. Oh, there's one of our collaborations right there. We had federal officials come and speak about infrastructure. The mayor attended that event, and he gave us a lot of great advice on funding for infrastructure projects in sisters country. So we just want to keep those relationships going and make them strong. Next slide. And this is our We Said Yes slide. So there is a list of things that we worked on with the city. We represented businesses on the City of Sisters implementation team. We assisted the City of Sisters with business-related engagement and communication. We provided the City of Sisters with infrastructure grant letters of support. We organized an infrastructure meeting between the City of Sisters and federal officials. We assisted the City of Sisters with the 75th anniversary project. We partnered in cooperation in a cooperative advertising campaign with the City of Sisters for the 75th anniversary. We aided in distribution of a City of Sisters visitor survey. We assisted the City of Sisters with survey incentives. We represented the Chamber on the City of Sisters tourism group. We represented the Chamber members on the City of Sisters comp plan update. We partnered with the Sisters Historical Society to provide space for the organization. And we also have ongoing involvement with COVID-19 and PPE. Next slide. We have just created, and we filmed it a long time ago. It just got done. It takes a long time to film these productions, from the creative to the end product. And you can see that I just posted it right before I came here. Today is the launch of our newest commercial. And so I just posted it on Facebook. And I am so excited about that one. So take a look at that.
Has it been, excuse me, can I interrupt? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Has it been distributed to the media outlets yet, or
No,
when
it
can we
hasn't.
expect to see it?
It has not been distributed to the media outlets. I sent it to Turi at probably 4:45 this evening. And
Okay.
so she'll work to get it out to our media outlets as quick as her little fingers can get it there.
Just curious about how long does that take, do you think? I mean, how long before we'll start seeing it?
Oh, not long.
Okay.
And it depends on where you go. Obviously, it's already on our Facebook, but we do so many different types of digital.
Okay,
So,
fair enough. Sorry.
mostly
It's a lot.
digital, airport, that sort of stuff.
Okay.
It probably won't go on TV anytime super soon.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about
So
that.
we'll do the digital component first and then the broadcast after.
Gotcha.
Yes. The other thing we worked on, we had a website redesign that we had been working on prior to COVID, and then COVID hit and it just threw us all off kilter. Obviously, we were doing a lot to help businesses find grants for businesses, make sure that they could stay in business. And so it was waylaid for a bit, but it is now complete. And we are still, adding pictures and logos, and that'll be an ongoing process, but it is just beautiful. And so we're very proud of that, even though it took us longer than we'd hoped to get up and running. Membership recruitment campaign. We did a membership recruitment campaign. We are really trying to get more members to join the chamber because it really subsidizes that marketing fund, and it helps them contribute to the marketing of the tourism. So we did that this year, and we did a holiday campaign redesign for our holiday events. Next slide. As you know, TRT funding means increased visibility, which leads to a stronger economy and increases general fund revenue. Next slide. And I talked about it, the positive impact by encouraging a vibrant workforce, drawing additional entrepreneurs, and most importantly, supporting year-round employment. And Kathy always thought this was positive because she said people come to visit Sisters and then they want to open a business here. So she was always encouraging with that as well. Next slide. Oh, so this is just information on destination marketing, and this is not new. Most of the towns do this. Data for smaller, which means less than $1 million budget, reported receiving 70.6% of their total funding for public sources. And 94% of DMOs reported receiving hotel room tax revenue, by far the leading source of public investment in destination management. Next slide. There's our demographic information, and I just have Cannon Beach and Leavenworth next because they're the closest. They're the closest towns where how I feel that we are. So I like to compare them. So the TRT to the chamber was 278,000. Next slide. And then Leavenworth, which has more than double, their fund to their chambers totals $1 million. It all goes to the chamber, but they're separated into two categories, which is the Leavenworth area promotion and then the Leavenworth Chamber. And so they're the same entity, they just manage two different programs out of that fund. And I just thought that would be interesting for you to see. And I get this information directly out of their budgets. I go to their city budgets and I look through everything that they're sending out. So that's where I get this information from. And Cannon Beach, annual TRT is 3.8, and it's almost $1 million. And that goes to about half of it is distributed to the Cannon Beach Chamber and the other to an art fund. Next slide. And that is our track record on the left-hand side. And I want to celebrate our partnership results today because I am telling you, we embarked 6 years ago in 2016 with the mayor and the city manager to increase the room tax. And what we said was we were going to take a fund that was $364,000, and the city gave me a directive to create that, turn that fund into $1 million annual TRT fund. And we are almost there. And you guys did that. You are helping our economy. You have committed to this investment. And I am so proud of you for doing it because of the multiplier effect that I talked about earlier. It is so important for the town. And COVID, you know, was just such a kick in the teeth that I am really glad we had that fund there to keep people coming to Sisters. So we are just so excited that we are almost there, and we had a goal of 5 years. And so we're a little bit behind the curve on that, but I'm predicting by next year, we will be at $1 million. And that is great because it's so exciting for me to have products here to market that are just awesome. We have a new hotel online that helped. We had 12 new rooms at Five Pine. We have so many great recreational assets here, and the city is doing great. And I really am so thankful to you. I can't even tell you how thankful I am for you guys making this investment for this town. Next slide. And those are some of our pictures. I don't know if you can pull up our Facebook. Do we have time really quick to look at that?
I don't think we can, it's
Okay.
a different login.
You can't do it.
Yeah, we probably need to get to questions. and
Okay,
comments.
well, take a look at that, and I would really appreciate your feedback on it. Again, it's been a long haul. We upheld our end of the bargain, and I'm very proud of what we've done. And we look forward to working with you in the future in any way that you see fit. We appreciate all of you. Thank you. Questions?
I want to go for questions. I want to go on the screen first and get those to our counselors on Zoom. Counselor Letts, would you like to go first? Questions, comments?
Sure. What kind of research have you been doing, visitor surveys, et cetera, really getting to know our visitor demographic? I know that's shifting. I can just see that visually as I move through town and see who's driving into town and enjoying our amenities. So do you have any, active research that you keep on kind of keeping a pulse on who our current and future visitors are going to be, so we know who to target to?
Right. So we can get you that research from our media partners. We target very specifically to the Seattle, Portland, and Bend area. That is our market. And so we really stay along that I-5 corridor, Counselor Letts. And then if there is an emergency, like a road closure, one of the benefits is that we're quick on our feet. We will shift all of our marketing over to Redmond and Bend because those people can get here to where they might not be able to get here from Portland and Seattle and the Valley. And so we're quick to do that. The chamber has not done an individual visitor survey. We did that with the visitor group that met for a year. And so we do have those results, and I believe Carrie has those. And we partnered on a visitor survey with the tourism group. So those numbers are available, and I can get those to you.
I'm sure that'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Terry, you'll need to be up at the mic if you're talking.
Terry?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's-
I just wanted to say the things that I brought. We reach half of the adults aged 25 to 64 who are wanting to travel each week in the Portland area and the Seattle area.
So that, I want to mention really quick, I did send you more than I normally did. And the reason I did, counselors, is because I thought it'd be interesting for you to see two of our media partners, our ad buys, and what those look like. And we go through very specifically, depending on what it is, like if it's an event, like the Harvest Fair, we'll want to run TV spots on the Hallmark Channel or the Housewives Channel. If it's a sports thing, we would run it on ESPN. And so I kind of wanted you to see the work that goes into an ad buy. I mean, we figure out every station we want it on depending on what we're doing. So it can be quite complicated. The marketing mix is part art and part science. And so we really try to market to those people for what we're doing. And the majority of that is for overnight stays.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Councilor Ross, do you have anything?
A question more than anything else. In reading the documents over and also hearing the presentation, one of the outside events that was mentioned was tree lighting. I've heard a rumor that's going to SPRD next year. Is that the case? And if so, why?
No, that is not the case. We partnered with SPRD this year, and I brought her in because I did want to partner with her. And we did discuss whether or not it would be beneficial for SPRD to look at their target market, which is children. And so we did discuss having like visits with Santa, being managed by them, possibly, and us doing the marketing. But no decision has been made on that. And we are just in preliminary discussions. And Jennifer just came along for the ride and she was great. I don't know what I'd do without her. At the Christmas tree lighting, we did have someone fall ill. And thank goodness she was up on the stage with me because somebody said, get that lady, she needs with the phone. And I didn't have my phone with me. So Jennifer totally took charge. She got the person to the ambulance. So she was very beneficial to have, but because they're children, one of them in particular is a children's event, I did discuss partnering with her on that. But there's been no decision made on either board's side other than initial conversation.
Thank you.
Rumor squelch.
Councilor Ross had some inside baseball there. That was good.
Good job.
Councilor Plum.
Good job keeping up on the intel in town.
The rumor mill. On an unrelated note to some degree, how do you feel our economy and our businesses are doing, given that looks like we're going to have another year like our past couple of years? Are we strong enough to survive this? Is this going to break anybody's back, or is there anything we can do to help even?
We're confident that the economy will stay strong in Sisters. I think we are very fortunate. I think there is a lot of fear about the future, not just with the business sector, but with the community because of unknowns with the Omicron, Kodachrome, I jokingly call it. But it's not a joke. It's still very serious. And I'm confident that Sisters will continue to thrive. I know that a couple of people have left their businesses, 2 of them, and those buildings are empty, but they are on Cascade, and anything on Cascade fills up right away. One of the buildings in town is being renovated, and I think all of those spaces are filled already. And the other space that is empty, the owner already has plans for that one. So that leaves the wine shop on the corner of Pine and Cascade. And I was gonna call Fred and just check in with him on that building next week to see if he has any plans or ideas
Good to hear.
for filling that building. Because the last thing we want is empty storefronts.
Right.
You know, it's, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we only have a couple minutes, so do you have anything?
No, I'm good, thanks.
I just had one thing. I really wanted to thank you for your COVID relief efforts and helping the
Oh.
businesses out. I think you and Kathy kind of joined together and helped the city out, by, coordinating some of that. I really appreciate that. I think that was some people would say, oh, they should do that already or whatever, but to be honest with you, that was an extra effort and a lot of work. I just think that shows how ingrained in the community you guys are, so thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And I failed to mention that we did have a grants committee that was formed on the fly. And I think, and Andrea can answer this probably better than me, because I had so many grant processes. We went through 5, that I think we got that money out in a couple of weeks. And the city councilors gave those checks out. So you saw the blood, sweat, and tears with people coming in.
Well, I was
getting
one of the
those
lucky ones
funds.
that got to do that and met a few of
Yeah.
the business owners around town. It was great. It was
Yeah.
it was just kind of a special thing that
Mhm.
just needed to be done. And I just wanted to thank you guys for the extra effort on that.
Thank you. And we had hairdressers coming in and just bursting out in tears
Oh.
because they were completely shut down and we were giving them checks for $1,000. So they were very grateful. So thank you very much.
Does anybody have any last minute things? Okay. Thank you so much. We appreciate the
Thank
update.
you.
Looking forward to seeing the commercial later.
Okay, it's on Facebook. Check it
pressure.
out.
All
They're
right.
excited about it.
We're going to take about a 4-minute break until our next city council next meeting, which is city council workshop, is adjourned. Thank you.
Oh, shoot.
All right, we good? All right, I'd like to call to order 6:30 p.m. City Council meeting, Wednesday, January 12th, 2022. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, everybody. Roll call.
Mayor Frieden,
I am here.
Council President Conley,
Here.
Councilor Blum,
Here.
Councilor Ross,
Present?
Councilor Letts.
Here.
All right, check. We need an approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We need a roll call. A vote.
Mayor Frieden,
Aye.
Council President Conley,
Aye.
Councilor Blum,
Aye.
Councilor Letts,
Aye.
Councilor Ross.
Aye.
Good job, everybody. Do we have any visitor communication?
We do not.
Another missed attempt, everybody. Okay, though. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do we have a motion for that?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's do a vote.
Mayor Frieden,
Aye.
Council President Conley,
Aye.
Councilor Blum,
Aye.
Councilor Letts,
Aye.
Councilor Ross.
Aye.
All right, next item on the agenda is council business. We have a discussion and consideration of a motion to approve a professional service agreement with Craig Letts Consulting LLC.
Mayor Frieden, I
Yes.
will recuse myself from this discussion.
Okay,
Yeah, I thought it sounds a little dodgy.
I didn't know it was the same person, but I was suspecting so. So that's fine. Thank you so much for saying so. Is there any other questions I need to ask or? Nope, it's all good. All right. Please.
Okay. So this is a council goal to tackle wildfire mitigation and just community resiliency in general. And this is going to go a long ways toward bringing that goal across the finish line. We issued a request for proposals to 4 firms, 2 recommended by the county and 2 that actually worked on the CPA work that was done a couple of years ago. And we got one proposal from Craig Lutz Consulting. And it was pretty easy selection. I mean, this is exactly what this firm does. They had a lot of great references, both private and municipal, and majority of that was in Central Oregon. So they responded to our scope of services for doing a facility risk assessment with our public works facilities and other city-owned facilities, evaluation of our existing wildfire code, which we do have some, and they'll provide recommendations with that work, as well as meshing in the new legislation that's coming towards us. He'll end up providing a wildfire hazard reduction and mitigation recommendations, strategies to help us prioritize an action plan that we can bring to you guys to help fund. And we're looking to have this work done by the end of the fiscal year. And we'll be working with you all through goal setting to potentially take this to the next step, really getting into the action plan associated with it. So we're excited for this project, pretty low cost for what we're getting, and the effort will be well worth it.
I'd just like to add one thing for those of you who are hawks of our public contracting code. You may have noticed that we don't generally bring $8,000 contracts to council, but we did, considering the recusal and the one proposal that we received, we wanted to just be as transparent as possible. So just another example of making sure we're taking extra steps to coordinate with legal and make sure we're going through the proper channels and just, again, an emphasis on good governance. So just want to piggyback that on what Paul said about the actual project. So.
Okay. Thank you for that, actually, and I think that that's just another example of how well I think you guys run the city, so thank you very much for that. Does anybody have any, do you have any questions or comments?
Just comments. I can't even tell you what the acronyms of CPA and WOLFR are for, but good things take time, and over the course of many years, we're finally to this stage where we are actually being able, as a public entity, to be a good role model for the citizens by taking care of our property, addressing the city concerns. And so I'm really happy that we're finally to this stage. And I am sorry that there weren't more responses to the RFP. However, I am very confident and happy with the agency we chose. Besides Forest Service experience, this company has a wonderful reputation and has provided valuable services to the communities in Bend that I'm aware of. So I'm thankful for the local expertise and the pride and work that I'm sure will come out of that. So that's all I have to say. Well done. And I look for more fire resiliency prevention things and goal setting.
Yeah, Councilor Ross?
Yeah, I want to echo what Nancy said, but it's an indication of the quality of talent we have here in town. And I'm not saying that to butter up another counselor. I mean, it really is true. We have a lot of good people here, and it's nice when we can have the expertise to do something like this. Like Nancy, I would have preferred to have some other vendors apply. But I also want to say to Corey, I think this is an appropriate step to bring before the council, given that there is a potential conflict of interest, and give councilor an opportunity to state so and keep everything above board and clean. So I like it, and I'm happy to see we're taking and making some movement on this, and I look forward to the next steps.
Thank you, Councilor Ross.
Ditto. They said it very, very nicely. I'm jazzed big time about finally getting to the step of the next step, because it seems like we're forever concerned about this and not taking specific actions to do something about it. But we have to find what those actions are and how to do them and make them worth the time and effort and money that we put into them. And actually, this was the question I asked you before was about this contract, not the previous one, where it says that they list the city-owned properties inside and outside the city limits, but it doesn't have City Hall on it. So that was just to let you know in case that was an oversight.
I think Craig's team will take a look at it, and along with all of our other facilities in town, and determine if we need to do some things. There is some potential there for sure.
Okay. Yay.
And I'll kind of echo what's already been said. Let's face it, this is another example that of a city growing up. We're not only growing out and up as in population, but also as an organization of a community. And so I really applaud you and your 20 years plus experience here in the city, and this is part of that growing thing. And I actually appreciate Corey's leadership as he's come on board and getting us to look at every little thing that we have and leading the charge on it. So I appreciate everybody's involvement, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it comes about. So
we are too. Thank you.
All right. I think we need a motion.
I move to approve a professional services agreement with Craig Letts Consulting LLC for wildfire mitigation consulting services in an amount not to exceed $8,000 and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement.
Second.
And that was a second. Thank you. We have a motion and a second, and we'll need a roll call vote.
Mayor Pruden,
Aye.
Council President Conley,
Aye.
Councilor Blum,
Aye.
Councilor Ross.
Aye.
All right. Unanimous 4. Nice. Thank you so much. That was good job, Paul. That was just awesome, I think. It's a little tiny piece to a big start, I think, is what it is. It's kind of like when you find an agate on the beach and you only see a little tiny bit of it, and you go to grab it and it's this big rock. You know what I mean? Sorry, I was just at the beach. So we're going to move on to other business. So we're not talking about rocks anymore.
I'm back.
The first.
I'm back.
All right, thank you. Other business. The first thing on other business is discuss the Affordable Housing Grant Program. And it looks like Corey's going to take that.
Yeah, I just want to provide a little bit of context and then open it up for questions and discussion. So I'm not going to recap the history of the city creating the Affordable Housing Grant Program. We included in the packet Chapter 3.25 of our code that does outline the provisions around the program. The gist of it is that we have a portion of our transient lodging tax that goes into our affordable housing reserve, and we created this program to essentially have a process with which to receive applications and then award some of those funds to support affordable housing. We've gone through the program for 2 years, and we've received 2 applications, one each year, and it was from Habitat for Humanity to assist them with construction of homes here in Sisters. So really the purpose of putting this on council business was to present the idea of not opening up the grant cycle this year. And what's changed in the last 14 months is that we adopted a new urban renewal plan and freed up potentially $400,000 towards workforce housing. And then in the last month have been awarded $500,000 for a multifamily rental workforce housing project through the county and their allocation of ARPA dollars. And so essentially, we need to identify, and we have an opportunity, a unique opportunity to identify a large multifamily rental workforce housing project in 2022, or at the latest early 23, to utilize the county funds. And we might need the urban renewal funds, and we might also need the $100,000 or so that are in the affordable housing reserve. And so it takes staff time and energy to put out the grant program, to review grant applications, to prepare materials for council, so on and so forth. And just given the track record of the applications we've received, and we've not gotten really any inquiries either from larger developers through that process, instead of putting out an application process, we need to go out and meet with developers and property owners and try to proactively put together some prospective developers and project pro formas. So that's just some of the thought process that staff has been having on this. If we were going to open the grant process, we, in theory, would have already done that. But if you all want to open it, we would work to open it, in the next week, kind of a thing. And then it would be open until March. So wanted to present that as a possibility based on some things that have happened even just within the last month, and get feedback and direction from council.
Thank you. I'll take the lead on this. I am fully supportive of, waiting until next year and not opening the process. I really think that this is an opportunity to take the effort that we would normally do on this and 100% putting it on finding the right projects sooner rather than later, because some of those grants, the time is of the essence, and all this is going to do is take a lot of time for not nearly as much productivity. One of the things that we're always talking about on our helping in this affordable housing area is what's the best bang for your buck. I think that this is one way we can kind of put a little, pump the brakes on this one, so we can get something big in the works, and then revisit this next year or the year after, whenever we decide. And I'm fully supportive of that, and I personally recommend it. Anybody else want to add to that? Councilor Ross? No? Councilor Letts?
I just had a clarification with the ARPA dollars. I heard there was a little bit of change with ARPA dollars. I was not sure what those changes were. Do any of them have anything to do with the time limit in using those dollars?
I don't believe the changes had to do with the time frame. So,
Okay.
we still have over about $300,000 that we've not received yet, but that we will have until, I believe, the end of 2025 to spend. However, the $500,000 that we've gotten reserved from the county, we need to demonstrate a project that could be under construction or actually completed. I need to clarify that by 2025, which means working backwards. If it's a 2-year time to construct, it needs to be under construction in 23 or early 24 at the latest. So we have less time to work to put those funds to use in Sisters, if that made sense. And then we're still digesting the other changes. I sent Joe a 437-page document to review in his spare time. So we'll be able to provide those updates later when we talk about ARPA funds more broadly, but I don't think any of the changes were super substantive or changed our thought process to this point.
Okay, thank you.
I'm thrilled about commingling, adding to our pile of funds for workforce and affordable housing. In the past, we've used a stick to have workforce housing built, with subdivisions coming online saying, if you want this, then you need to have X amount of affordable housing. It's nice to be able to offer a carrot now to entice the known players in Central Oregon to build some housing here for us. And I'm all for taking this year off from giving the grant and keeping the funds that we have to see what we can entice instead of waiting for them to come to Sisters. We need to aggressively go out and court those builders and provide the necessary workforce housing, missing middle housing here in Sisters. And so let's do this. Or not do it, as the case may be.
Well, it's funny, we're nodding to do something, but we're actually saying don't do something. But
Yeah.
it makes sense. Councilor Blum?
Amen.
Okay. So I think that's a 5-head nod, but let's everybody nod their head if they're in agreement. Okay.
So I think what we'll do is we'll still prep kind of the opposite of a notice of funding opportunity to say that we're not doing this grant program this year, but offer the rationale that we've discussed tonight. So it is certainly not any diminishment of the city's support of this issue. It's actually the contrary. We just have to make sure that people understand that. So
Is that come in the form of a press release, or what do you do?
yeah, probably would be a press release, potentially. I mean, when we do the notice of funding opportunity, it's not necessarily a press release, but we do push it out. So let Scott and I work on that, and I think we could probably work with the local paper too to help get that message out.
Yeah, and I think it's a co-message. It's not, we're not doing this because we're doing all of this. And so let's be aggressive in that, I think.
And I'm wondering, in terms of, with the small city staff, being aggressive and going after individuals or companies that might be willing to take advantage of this funding source to get something on the books and started by next year, really, is what we're talking, maybe the middle of next year. I don't know if Central Oregon Business Builders Association or some of the other statewide associations are a good resource for us to really go after and pick to see if we can bring the right kind of developers and builders to the table to make this happen for our community.
Yeah, it's a great point. We've already had several conversations, and the reality is that we sort of have to start with the land and then move from there. So the land has been the focus for now and will be until we can identify at least a couple acres or more that could be utilized for something like this, and then we'll have to pivot a little bit and figure out who wants to step up and build it. So we'll be providing updates along the way, and yeah, this is something that Scott and I are going to be dedicating and teaming up on early and often in 2022.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's ways to, I know we have to, even when we get down to that point, there's a building permit process and permitting and zoning and that kind of thing as well. I don't know if there's any way that we can, as a city, since we kind of run that show to a certain degree, if there's ways we can speed that up as well if we have to, maybe as an incentive. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. So anyway.
No, good thought.
Okay. All right, you got the head nod, so we're good on that topic. Next, Carrie Prosser with reviewing the public safety survey. This is going to be fun.
So I'm not going to go through it in detail. You all received the survey pre-Christmas to look at. And just as kind of an overview, we sent out 1,800 surveys, of which we got 662 completed for a 36.7% return ratio. And really we did a lot of comparisons within the survey to the 2019, and there were very similar results across almost every category. If you go through question by question, you'll see that. Question 10, which was the biggest threat to the community, and by far traffic safety was that piece. And then the other one that was super interesting was the two most important issues to the community, which were almost dead even, was wildfire prevention and traffic safety. So those two topped the list of what people were very, very concerned about. And then the other one that I thought was interesting, because in 2019, we did not have the current contract with the sheriff, with Deep right now as we do. And there was really a very big increase in people considering it a very effective process right now, or people right now. So that was great to see. 75% of the people that returned a survey said they were very or somewhat satisfied with that service. So that was a great piece to see. We are posting this out on the website. It actually went out this afternoon, so people can access it there. It was in the packet today. And I'm really just opened up if you guys had any questions about anything within the survey.
Okay.
I just had a comment when I was reviewing it, and how much traffic safety always radiates. And I thought, what a fabulous community we have, that the biggest concern people have is how much traffic we have. Not that people are dying in droves from the traffic. I mean, it's the statistics wouldn't indicate we have this huge safety problem here. But for our community, that rises to the top because we have so little else that people have to worry about. That I was very pleased to see that and to recognize that. So.
Thank you. No, nothing?
Nope.
Councilor Les, do you have any questions, comments? No? Councilor Ross?
No, I want to echo what I think Andrea just, well, not what I think, what I heard Andrea say. That is, it is a wonderful place. I've lived in other communities and participated in these surveys as an elected official, and have seen people concerned about high crime rates, people concerned about safety, people concerned about burglaries, damage. And yeah, we have some of that here. Every community does. But realistically, the thing people are most concerned about are the two that were brought up: wildfire mitigation and slowing traffic down, especially on our secondary and tertiary streets. So great work, everybody, and kudos to Deschutes County. I didn't think they could pull it off when we started talking this contract, and they have really knocked it out of the park, in my opinion.
Well, and that gives us another chance to say the phrase 20 is plenty. I love driving around town at 20. People stack up behind me. I don't care. It's okay. Thank you for your hard work on that. I know that's a lot of hours. Sometimes it looks like, wow, it's just the same thing. But that also means that nothing has gone haywire either. So there's a lot of good news in that. Obviously, everybody's pleased about our law enforcement contract. I think that's a huge success, and that this just highlights that. So I don't have any questions. I think it's awesome. I think we should do this every 3 or 4 years, and just keep up on it. And we have a lot of transportation related stuff coming up this next year or two. Hopefully get that roundabout in as well. And I think that'll change things even for the better then as well. So
yeah, I love the one, take that roundabout out and put in a light.
Yeah.
And if I could just thank Julie for crunching the numbers, because she's the one that entered all the data in for
Yeah.
that survey, and that is a lot of work. So
yeah, and data entry is not very fun, really, let's be honest. But yeah, good job, staff, for getting that all together. And and one more comment.
Sorry, my first on this topic, honestly.
Yeah.
I just wanted to reiterate that as elected officials, we're supposed to know what's going on in the community and the issues and problems, opportunities and values. And the fact that our subcommittees, Fire Mitigation, Urban Forestry Board, TSP, all have brought back documents moving forward to address these 2 issues and the contract with the Deschutes County and the 20 is plenty that you talked about, I think truly reflect that we are in touch with what the community members want, what they've elected us to bring forward and issues to address. And so it's very timely that the survey came out tonight and reinforces the work that we have slated going forward and going into goal setting. So well done for being out in the community and knowing what our constituents want and need and prioritize. That's it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Carrie. On to staff comments. You've been on it, so you want to go first?
I have to think about what I've been doing.
We got a survey out.
Got a survey out.
Yep.
Christmas happened. I took some time off, so I was actually gone for about 11 days, so that was nice.
Good.
We'll begin working with Jeremy and legal on charter revisions starting next week, so expect to see those coming back to you guys in workshops fairly soon, probably I'd say end of February, early March, for maybe the first round of conversations with those, trying to get to that November ballot. It comes up sooner than you would think. Been working a lot with the East Portal and the URA and the resolutions, and just trying to make sure we've got all those things lined up as they should be. So that's been a big piece. And then we've got some destination management things going on, some meetings, and you guys will see us at the workshop next on the 26th with a conversation about that. And then the last piece is the state of the city, which we had been working on in the fall and held off until January. We'll be out on January 26th, and that's pretty much wrapped up as of this week and ready to go. So, questions?
Any questions, anybody? No? Just keep us up to date on calendar changes of meetings. I know we have a lot of meetings coming up over the next couple of months, so.
Yeah, and I will get tentative schedules or tentative agendas out. I'll start on that track again as the meetings become regular. So you'll see one tomorrow.
Yeah. And I'm mainly not talking for the rest of them, I'm talking for myself. So just keep me,
Sure.
just keep me on the level. I was almost late today, so thank you. Director O'Neill.
All right, thank you. I don't want to take this away from Scott, but you guys might have heard that we have hired a principal planner. His name is Matt Martin. He is from Deschutes County. He's also been in the area for many years before that. So his first day, I believe, will be February 7th. So we look forward to him coming aboard and being part of our team here. Like I think Scott said earlier, we've got quite a bit of work for him. So that'll be great. Some of the other fun things for finances, our team set in on a kind of a presentation to host the business license billing and renewal online. That's something that we've had as a department goal recently, and that's also because of some of the feedback and input we received from the business community. They just, people are not using paper checks as much anymore, and so they want more of a digital system. So we're migrating that way as best we can to accommodate that. So that's pretty exciting for us. As far as things that get us excited, I guess. And that's about all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
Any questions for Joe? Jennifer, you got something?
Yeah, and I don't know if you're the best person to answer these, so I apologize if they're not in your wheelhouse, but how have the campground reservations been looking since that just opened up?
Yeah, that is great. I should have noted that. So I appreciate that, Councilor Letts. So the reservations went online on the 3rd, I believe. Yes, the 3rd. And just like last year, the Folk Festival was sold out in a matter of minutes. The process has gone extremely well. I've probably told you this before, but we used to get inundated with calls most of the morning, if not all day, for people that are having trouble. And now we get maybe 10 minutes of calls, and maybe we get 10 of them just for people that want us to do the reservation for them. So they're assured of a spot. But they've really become quite seamless. So I think the first day had $61,000 of campground receipts, which represents about a quarter of our total annual campground receipts for the camp season that straddles the fiscal year, as you know. So they went really well. And kudos to Julie. She has streamlined that very well. She manages it with ease and with a lot of patience, because it can be very demanding. People really like to be at our campground, especially during the busy event time. So yeah, that went really well. So thank you so much for bringing that up, Councilor Letts. I appreciate that.
Great, that sounds good. My other question was, I know we discussed a month or so ago about getting a report on short-term rentals. Are we gonna see that soon?
Yes. So Scott and I and Corey have kind of discussed a myriad of topics. It kind of grows every time we discuss it. So we're taking our time to make sure that's thoroughly done, because there's a broad range of things that we want to present to you all. So we should have that probably within, if not the end of this month, early in February.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Anybody else? Thank you, Joe.
This is just to Councilor Letts, a piece of trivia. Before we went online, counselors would get phone calls at home starting at like 6 a.m., 8 a.m. The day's reservations went online with people going, I can't ever get through. Can you book this for me? Honest story, Michigan, Ohio. It's like, no, I don't. I'm in bed. Leave me alone, kind of thing. So we really appreciate it going online.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. We'll get calls at 8:05 from people saying something must be wrong. There's no availability for a full hookup spot during Folk Festival weekend, and you can look at real time the reservation grid, and they're filled up. So people must practice, or something in the off times to get their speedy process done. It's pretty remarkable. So
Sounds like when I tried to get John Legend tickets.
yeah, or your sneakers, and Councilor Blum, on your sneaker releases. Got to be quick on the trigger on those too. I hear Corey laughing, I think. Thank you.
All right. Anything else for Joe?
No, the only trick is you open up 3 computer screens on 3 different computers. And you keep hitting send till you get through. That's why it locks the whole thing up. It's people like me. So
there you go. All of a sudden, you have the whole campground reserved.
All right. Scott.
So last week we had a kickoff meeting internally for the housing plan update and the efficiency measures project with our consultant, Angelo Planning. And they've laid out a draft schedule for how they're going to accomplish those projects and how we're going to solicit community input and how we're going to get the input of Planning Commission and City Council. And so our hope is to get both those projects done before the end of the year. We're targeting November, actually, to try to get those things adopted. They're going to track pretty much concurrently because there's a lot of overlap between the two. So we anticipate there's going to be probably check-ins with the Planning Commission and Council in March and April, June, July, and then probably adoption in like October, November. And so we're going to create a page on our city website so that we can get information out to the community. We'll be doing some press releases, things to make sure that the community is aware that this is going on and how they can provide input on these very important projects we got going. So you'll be sick of hearing about housing and efficiency measures by the end of November, I'm sure. But we got a great consultant on board, and we're excited to get that going. And having Matt on board is going to create some additional bandwidth for us in our department so that we can really attack those projects and still maintain the other services that we provide. Emmy's just learning very quickly, and we're just elated to have her on board. And you would never know she's only into this job about 4 or 5 months. She's really done a lot, especially during this time when we've been down a planner. So and obviously Carol as well. So I thank both those folks for doing what they're doing to keep things together. And then excited about Matt. We've been over time, we converse a lot back and forth with Deschutes County, and after Matt made his announcement that he was leaving, we've been getting a lot of unsolicited comments back from the county, basically saying great for you, bad for us. We're excited to hear that.
I was kind of afraid what you might say there.
Yeah, I was going to choose my words carefully.
No, that's good.
But it's nice to hear some other good feedback from him that we didn't hear we heard good stuff through the interview process, but to also hear some unsolicited compliments is good to hear as well.
All right. Do we have any questions?
Oh, we just have a few development. We have our usual slate of development applications, including Sisters Elementary School has recently submitted for site plan review for the new school.
Exciting.
We're moving fast.
You were talking about Deschutes County, and I know that they're doing a comp plan update. What role, if any, will you play in that, or does the city, they helped us kind of with our comp plan? Do they expect our time and talent to help them?
If they do, they haven't approached us yet. We'd be happy to obviously reciprocate on doing that if they ask. I think the counties, because comprehensive plans sometimes contemplate expansion of land into county land, that they participate in those things more so than the opposite. But we'll see if Peter comes calling. Peter Gadowski. Yeah.
Tell them you're busy.
I'm too busy.
Do you have any idea when we'll get census information?
There has been some things that have come in that give us kind of a snapshot of the census findings, and I will forward that stuff to you guys when I get back to the office tomorrow. So
Do you have
thanks for
any
asking
idea
about
when
that.
they'll be completely finished and have it all? I mean, does it usually take years to really go through everything, or is that something? Yeah, I don't know what the process is.
That's a good question. Let me look into it a little farther.
Okay,
and,
because,
I'll get-
you know, we just have so many figures floating around about how many residents we have, and everything's based per capita, and I really don't know.
I've seen some snapshot figures on Deschutes County and Sisters, and you can compare it to any other community in the country. So if that's the extent of the information that we're going to get, I don't know, or if it's just kind of a snapshot.
Yeah,
I'll
and
have to kind of look
hopefully
into
then
that.
ODOT will do new signs, population signs.
After there, slow down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
slow down, there's 150 more of us as of yesterday, you know?
Yeah.
So, I have a question. How did residential permits, or how much, building permits stack up as compared to the year before? And how much do you feel like COVID, did that affect it at all, or did it make it worse, or?
Didn't, in my estimation, didn't seem to affect it much at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know you guys keep track of those kind of numbers and stuff, right?
We get like a monthly report from the county in terms of the number of permits that they filed or that they approved. It generally tracks usually about 6 or 7 single families a month. It's kind of been the average. Although right now it's a little bit farther. It's gone down a little bit lately.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what to attribute that to, but it's. We do have numbers, and I can get those put together and share those with you.
Yeah, I don't want to have you spend too much time on it, but I just think it's interesting to kind of compare year over year, and
Sure.
Once in a while. We used to ask a lot. I remember back, we had nothing else to do. Let's just ask how many permits were there. And
Yeah.
there's so much, there's so many bigger items going on that we.
Well, that I can put together for you, like
Nice.
2021, 2019, kind of a little snapshot of total year round.
Yeah, you got 5 minutes, and as long as it's okay with Corey. Okay. Councilor Ross, Councilor Letts, anything? No? Okay. Nope. Okay. Thank you so much. Paul.
Again?
Hello.
20 is plenty.
You like that?
We do like that. So conveniently, you guys passed the TSP amendments at your last meeting, and we're charging right out of the gate with the 20 is plenty campaign. We reached out to Region 4 traffic engineer to get guidance on how we do it. He went to the state speed zone engineer, and we got direct feedback from her, and we're working right now with our legal on preparing an ordinance. So we have to do an ordinance that establishes essentially the speed reduction within the city. He's working on that, and I'm hoping to have that to you at the next meeting, if not the meeting after that. So, and then we're ordering a bunch of signs. So it's, yeah, we felt like the top priority project coming out of that safety audit that we did, and we want to get that rolling. And, while the ground's not frozen, we'll be planting signs. If it's frozen, as soon as it de-thaws, we'll be on it. So
okay.
That's what I got on that. Think anything else? We had some snow last week that we had to deal with, and then we ordered up some warm weather to melt it off. We let the studded tire people be happy and get to use their tires. Any feedback on that from you guys?
I actually got one complaint, and it was from somebody who works at the food bank on, I guess it's on, is it Tuesday or Wednesday that they hand it? Huh?
Thursday?
Yeah, they do it one day a week, I think. They have a come-in day. And the pile of snow in front of the food bank, they wished it had been pushed over the sidewalk and onto the private property next door. And I said, well, we can't do that. I
We
said,
did move it for him though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, we went down and moved it for him and it
Yeah.
was justifiably so.
yeah, I mean, it was big, so, you know.
That worked out. I mean, the storm cycle was not what we would call optimal.
Right.
You know, we had basically 2 24-hour storms back to back, and each one, you know, we plowed 3 times. So it's just, it was not very efficient, but it just wouldn't shut off
That's right.
like we asked it to.
No, you
So,
guys, I thought you guys did great myself, so.
Well, I wanted to ask you, I saw a couple of buried cars, and how do you determine which cars to move or whether to bury them with the plow?
well, we're basically working around anything during the storm that's out there. It's when we come in and widen that we'll remove cars that are in the way. So we got roll-up signage that says snow removal
Right, yeah.
between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m., no parking. And then we'll have Davis towing out there, moving cars if we need to. And that's typically when we bring in the road graders or widen out the roads. So
Yeah, I just noticed a couple on Pine Street did not move the whole time, and they still haven't moved.
we had a few of those around town.
Yep,
Yep.
yep.
That's all I have.
I have another question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The railings down at the bridge on the park, in the park, still waiting on.
We got the second or third rendition yesterday of the artwork.
Okay.
So we gave him some feedback and he's gonna incorporate that, and I'm calling it artwork.
Yeah.
Yeah, legit.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, I
Really
agree.
cool.
Trying to get it right. We're gonna do it once, and we want to get
Yep.
it right. So we've been going back and forth with them, and you know, they were apologizing for taking a while to get us some
Mhm.
renderings, and we're working on it for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna tell a story essentially from, you know, the mouth of Whitechoose Creek to, you know, the upper reaches, the spawning habitat, all the way through the Camp Polk Meadow, and it's gonna be really cool for the kids.
Awesome.
For sure.
And
Cool.
Ponderosa Forge is doing that?
Yes.
Well, another local business doing stuff, you know, that's awesome.
And
Okay.
you know it's gonna turn out awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be over the top a little, but that's.
It'll be cool.
Yeah, that's good. You have anything?
Gary.
Gary?
Just quickly, again, I want to thank Paul and his team for the job they did. I grew up in snow country. I know how hard it is to deal with light snow followed by wet snow, followed by more wet snow, followed by people driving on it. And I think the roads pretty much were in very good shape. There were a couple that might have been a little bit tougher to clear just because of the packing down effect. But living on Locust, I see you guys go by many, many times with those plows heading somewhere else to do some work. So, and I know a 48-hour cycle of plowing is hard on everybody as well as equipment. So good job. And then a question. What's the bump out that's being done? Was that one damaged by a plow, or is that a new one out there at the very end of Locust Street?
So we are doing, well, we got a good weather window, some sidewalk repairs, some trip hazards. We did a little informal audit of the city-owned sidewalks, mostly the bulb outs, and we got a list, and we're starting to work on that list.
Okay, just curious.
Yep.
All right. Go ahead.
On the 20 is plenty idea, just riffing off of that, if we can maybe somewhere in the process put a positive spin on that, maybe add some signage of, you know, slow down, enjoy the view, you know, or give people a reason to be happy about slowing down instead of getting angry about it. Whoa, slow down, partner, you know, something like that. So
Slow down, partner.
yeah,
That would be funny, actually.
those were the theme. So yeah, just something to chew on, that give some, just like I said, give some people a positive spin on it instead of stewing over it.
Do we have any plans for special signage, or is it all just 20 right now?
Obviously the 20-mile-an-hour. I think we'll be working on getting some notice out to our citizenry.
Yeah.
the traveling public to let them know, and I think we could do some creative things.
Yeah, I think it would be well supported here, and I think it would be well supported out in the public as well, I
Sure.
believe. We're not talking millions of dollars, it's a little bit of signage. I think
Right.
it'd be great if we had some, if we included it in our branding, if we included it in some of our Wayfair stuff that we're talking about doing down the road. And, I don't know, just kind of just coalesce the message a little bit. Slow down, partner. I like it. Anybody?
Said, whoa,
Yeah.
slow down,
Whoa,
partner.
slow down, partner. Okay.
Whoa.
Anything else? All right. Thank you. Corey?
So I've been meeting with some agency partners in the last week and a half, met with Lieutenant Davis, met with the county health department, met with Tammy Bainey, met with Nick Lelak, had the Sisters Vision implementation team meeting last Friday. So just kind of checking in with some of those folks in 2022. Not that we ever lost touch at the end of 21, but just regrouping in the new year, and honestly a little bit also thinking ahead to budget cycle and making sure that come March, certainly, that anything or everything that we want to be on partners' radar is. So anyway, just a side note there, and then a lot of plugging in and supporting staff and all the different projects that you've heard about, making sure that they have the resources they need and direction they need from me, and working on those collaboratively, which has been a lot of fun, and communicating with all of you, and just I don't think there's much else for me to add in terms of all the ground we've covered tonight. So if there's any topic areas or issues and you have questions on those, let me know.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Corey? Comments? No? Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I want to say something. I think you're doing a great job, and I think that our lack of comments and questions shows that, to be honest with you. It's not that we don't care. I'm getting head nods up there, so we'll just stick with that. All right. We've run out of staff, so it's up to us now. Anybody have anything? Is there anything to report for the new year? You want to go first?
Oh, sure. Corey alluded to the fact that the vision implementation team met last Friday, and just a quick update, I'm not sure who the gentleman from the county was, but said that the Sisters Country trails are just waiting on ODOT for what, I'm not quite sure. And they will start the discussion with the community about trails connecting outside of the community, out of the city limits. So look for some type of information coming out in the future about that. C4C and the community website, and I'm not sure that that's the right technical term, is now housing the vision implementation team and the vision goal. And for a variety of different reasons, but it's a good place for that to be housed. So it's all transferring over, or it already is transferred over, I think. C4C is soon to be posting a survey to the community about options for redevelopment of the elementary school. And so look for that, not trunk monkey.
Survey Monkey?
Survey Monkey, there you go. Survey Monkey coming out, and please take it. It covers the whole list of options that were pulled from public comments. And that information will be condensed and given to the school board, I think, in March, April, May.
Yeah.
Somewhere soon.
Spring.
For them to decide. And then I don't understand my note here, which is okay. It was a defensible space and fire mitigation with Senate bills. That was it. Senate Bill 762. And I'm sure we'll get more information from the county and the state about what that means for us. And that is it. Besides, who is signed up for the continuing education that we just are signing off on your $1,200 tuition? Where are you going and what are you learning?
That'd be me. So it's not a conference. It's actually a leadership academy, and it did technically start this week, and it's gonna be running for. There's 2 4-week modules with a week break in the middle, and then I think a break after the 4-week, and then the second 4-week, and then another like 2 or 3 week module. So it's going to be 4 to 5 hours a week of educational materials. It's a high performance leadership academy. So probably when I get to the end of the first 4-week module, I'll plan to provide a little bit of an overview about some of the key takeaways. And I don't know, maybe you'll just notice that I've gotten
Just
better
superior
at leadership,
skills.
and I won't even need to present on what exactly it was. But we'll see.
Thank you. That's it.
Maybe it'll help with the side eye he always gives. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I almost mentioned it, but
That's it.
All right. Survey monkey. I like it. Counselor Letts?
I attended the COIC board meeting virtually last week. Not too much exciting going on there. They're just chugging along with their 3,000 different projects that they handle for the region. Obviously, the same problems of staffing shortages and how that reflects in their bus service. And you know, so they're like everybody else working hard to get people recruited. And then tomorrow we have EDCO board meeting. So looking forward to that. As you know, Roger Lee has departed after many, many years. So John Stark will be the interim director, and just curious to see if that kind of shifts anything with EDCO moving forward, maybe some new leadership, new visions. So I'm looking forward to that.
It'll be nice to know if he's ready for the job. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. Counselor Ross?
Yeah, couple of things. Council President Connolly and I have the joy of, and the pain, actually, in some ways, because there are only 2 houses for 3 groups of people, to work with First Story on selecting their next group of participants for the interest-free loan and a home to live in the Hayden development. Mayor Preet and I did it last time around. It's extremely, it's extremely rewarding. And the hard part is when you don't have enough for everybody. But we'll do that tomorrow. And then lastly, I'm thinking that maybe we need some Burma shave signs as you come into town. Those of you who are my age know what they are. And it will say, Citrus is pretty with lots of views. There's lots to enjoy as you travel through. So slow down, partner, and enjoy the show. 20 is plenty. It's the way to go.
Oh, geez.
What happens when you take drugs for your back?
All right, hang up. Just kidding. Thank you. Counselor Plum, do you have anything?
No, we're, COACT meeting is tomorrow. We'll get an update on everything, but I don't anticipate there's gonna be anything too exciting. We'll see.
Okay. Well, I really don't have anything other than I'm gonna be out of town next week, so, but I'll be back. I did meet Congressman Schrader at his request here in town and got to have a meal with him at the ski-in. We had lunch. I think he was, you know, he's trying to round up the troops. He's going to be in a new area here. Obviously, they changed his district. He was mostly Tillamook and that side, and now he's a little more Central Oregon and has sisters in his sights. And he's running against Skinner McLeod. So I think he was just kind of getting a feel for the area. He was very nice. I appreciated him taking his time out just to talk to me. And I got to pump the roundabout and a few other things that were, you know what I mean? I just got to,
Yeah.
I gave him an elevator speech in between bites of a burger. So, you know, it was good. If you need him, he's very accessible considering that he's a, you know, Washington type. So really nice guy though, and enjoyed it. Other than that, everybody be safe for the next couple of weeks. This variant is a little crazy, so be careful, everybody. And meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Do we have checks to write or checks to sign?
yes.
Okay.